G'day everyone, how are you going? I hope you're doing really well. I'm Wilkinson. Welcome to the video. So this video today, we're just going to have a general look at some of the instruments that you might use in your songwriting and how they fit on the piano. If you're new to the channel, Find Your Sound is all about writing songs and music creation. So most of the songs I write are based around the guitar and the piano, drum beats and bass guitar. But also I like to use some orchestral instruments every now and again, like the violin, the cello, the trumpet and the sax, because they can just add some really nice flavours and moods to your song. So I thought I'd just have a look at all the instruments that I typically use in songwriting and how they all go together, which octaves they're in, and where do they fall on the piano. I wanted to just quickly mention the Kontakt player. So Kontakt is by Native Instruments and it's a free download. There's 3 instrument libraries: Kinetic Tricks, the Factory Selection and the Play Series Selection. And the Play Series Selection is really interesting. Yeah, so in say for example the hybrid keys interface, you can blend 2 instruments together. And if you go through all the things in it, you'll find some orchestral stuff, horns, violins and saxophones. It's a great sound library for a free library. I've made this PDF file for you of the keyboard and where all the different instruments fit on it. So there we go, have a look at the top thing. It's just the piano keyboard. You can see that there's 7 octaves and where middle C is on the piano. So there's a weird thing, I don't know about other doors, but in Ableton they actually label middle C as C3 for some reason. So that was a C chord. You can see how in Ableton they label it as C3. If you go online searching for musical stuff and they start talking about the ranges of an instrument where they are on the piano roll, middle C will be C4. So bass guitar is just pitched 1 octave lower than a regular guitar. So after your bass guitar, you've got a cello, comes in its lowest string, the C string starts there, then the guitar's lowest string is the E, then saxophones start from the A flat. These pictures are just a very general example of where the most typical instruments fall on the piano, because there's all sorts of saxophones and trumpets and different types of violins and they can all be a little bit different, but generally speaking these are the ranges for the instruments. Trumpet, and then you can see the violin and the trumpet are quite similar in their ranges, and finally we've got the flute, which can cover 3 octaves and goes up, starts at middle C and goes upwards. So just say something quickly about octaves. So if you're learning about music for the first time, an octave is just the distance between 2 notes that are actually the same note, just that one of them is higher than the other one. It's at a higher pitch. So if I play this note and then go up to this note, you can hear it's the same note. Any of the other keys you'll hear that it's not the same note, but these 2 are. And that is the characteristic thing about music, is that even though we've got 88 keys here, there's actually only 12 different notes, and then they just keep repeating. And then you've got scales. So scales are just a way of dividing the octave into a certain number of notes. Like if you use all 12 notes in an octave, that's called the chromatic scale. Major and minor scales only use 7 notes, and pentatonic and blues scales only use 5 notes. That's it. If you go into the next octave, it's the same notes just repeating. The other thing I just wanted to quickly show you was this. So if you've never seen any of those instruments I was talking about, here's a violin, just a standard violin. There's lots and lots of violins that are smaller than this one, but this is just a typical one. But if you come down to a cello, you can see that person standing upright. They're like a really enormous violin. Violas are slightly bigger than the violin and played the same way. And then your cellos are enormous, so you have to stand up to play them. There's a flute. There's all sorts of different flutes. Trumpets is the one with the stops on the top. And then saxophones. There's all sorts of saxophones. Clarinets and oboes look pretty similar. And the last thing I wanted to show you with instruments was these kettle drums, or they call them timpanis. And if you ever heard some classical music and you've heard this really low, thunderous, rumbling drum sound, that's what it was. It's the kettle drum. And I could tell you from first-hand experience, trying to recreate it in something like Ableton with a lot of normal like kick drums and cymbals, it doesn't work. To get that thunderous, deep, resonant sound, you really have to get a timpani sound file. Let's just quickly have a look at this Leonard Slatkin. He's a conductor. He's got a YouTube channel where he teaches conducting. By placing those instruments in those places, they're mixing the orchestra. Well, they divide all the instruments up into 4 different groups: strings, brass instruments, woodwind, and percussion. So they have the very front row, then the middle row, and the back row. If you're using a violin or a flute or a saxophone and you're mixing, this little map is a good place to start for how to place it in your mix. So that's it for today's video, just a quick introduction to where the instruments that we can often use in our own songwriting fit on the piano and what octaves they're playing in. I hope you found that at least interesting, if not inspiring or educational, I suppose. I don't know. Anyway, I hope you have a really good day, and thanks for watching.